Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast series, powered by openbusinesscouncil.org, citiesabc.com, and fashionabc.org, and soon as well sportsabc.org. So once again, we're here to continue profiling personalities, business leaders, and thought leaders that are from different parts of the world, and as well they're inspiring us with their journey, with their achievements, with their as well opportunities and challenges that come from the work they do, but especially people that are unique in what they do. And what we've been trying to do in this series that I've been proud to, I think we are right now in 250 interviews, is actually portraying people that I like first and people that are actually changing the world. Some of people I know personal, others less, but we've been always sharing a lot of different things. I think we've been having people here probably from 50 to 100 nationalities. And we want as well to look at the diversity and as well the talent that we have in different parts of the world and demystify the myths, the different approaches towards the way we do business, the talents that we have, the different ways we approach to look at technology, look at business. And this is a YouTube channel about business and technology. A lot of people right now, of course, we become paranoid about the advanced technologies like AI and blockchain and IoT and so forth. But some of the things is more about how we deal and how we build relationships, because that part, technology is not going to change and no AI can change it. So that's the case of our special guest for today, that is becoming a dear friend and someone that I respect for her energy and the uniqueness of pushing things forward. So I welcome to our series Merve Kanat Dogan, that is a business leader and as well a prominent entrepreneur and a lot of other talents from Turkey, Istanbul, where she's based. So Merve Kanat Dogan is present, working in vice president of business at ztudium, which is the group that I'm involved. But she's as well a very high-profile personality that has been working in a lot of different things as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur with extensive entrepreneurship experience in international business, sales and marketing, and import and export, especially in the areas of project management, business development. And some of the things that going through her CV and as well profile, she has a degree in economics from ACTEP University and also has attended programs in the Vienna University of Economics. And from her career that has been spanning various industries, including foreign trade, consultancy, banking, health, tourism, medical, cosmetics, electronics, automation, manufacturing, and equestrian in business and mining. She's been quite plural in the different things. And it's one thing that I want to talk about the different parts of her personality, but what she's been doing. And especially what I love is that she's been working with companies in different parts of the world. She actually has co-founded several companies and cooperatives and managed different departments and established business relationships. Some of the companies she's been working is Bank, for instance, ERK PHARMA, KLIMA, EQUUSIR German GmbH companies, to name some of them. But she's been as well in working and managing companies like UTCM, FIL COSMETICS, Quantum Health and Tourism Cooperative, and Subway Organization. So one of the things as well that is interesting from Merve is that she's been working in a lot of different parts of the world that probably for my audience that is more probably, we have people from all over the world, but that I don't normally talk. So from Turkey to Ethiopia, from Turkey to Egypt, from Middle East, from different parts. And I think this is quite important because most of the world population is actually in these countries and not a lot of attention is given to the people, the stars of these markets. And one of the things I like about her is that she's quite an experimental person, open both to learn and to get different parts of understanding, and as well a person focused on people, which is something that I love as well. So, and there, of course, from her experience, we're going to be talking as well about one of the things that I think is quite unique, that is she's a horse therapeuta, which is something that probably I didn't know much until I met Merve. But I think it's interesting as quite a big industry as well. and as well a lot of things that relate with, of course, the ecosystem of Turkey and her experience. So Merve, welcome to our series.
Thank you very much, Dinis. It's really my pleasure to be here with you, and also I'm quite honored to be a part of a valuable, great Studium group. And thank you for your kind words. It means a lot. Thank you very much. And
no, my pleasure. You you are a force of nature. So Merve, I think when we look at Turkey, of course, Turkey is, I would say, thousands of years of history. Now, of course, there's the earthquake recently, unfortunately, but the history of Turkey is one of the wealthiest in the history of humanity. And as well, from the Bible to a lot of different empires passed through the territory of Turkey. And actually, most of the territories around Turkey were part of the empires of Ottoman Empire and so forth. So how is it for a young entrepreneur like you to grow up and actually grew in the middle of all these different, I would say there's a weight of different layers of culture, different layers of heritage, but as well a very dynamic and entrepreneurial country. So I would like to talk about that part first, and as well a bit of your background personally.
Thank you. Well, actually, to be an entrepreneur, or first of all, to be a growing up, lady in Turkey is kind of, is very wealthy. It's very valuable, but at the same time, it's very challenging as well, because we are really a great mosaic in Turkey, and so many nations, have passed through this, land, and we have a very, rich culture, and we also have, different religions, different cultures in our country, which makes a great mosaic. But at the same time, it also gives you different perspectives in life, which is also very valuable, because while, you have to be aware of everything in Turkey because of the geopolitical, position that our country is based. The location is kind of, a hub between Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and we are close to very different nations. We have similarities. We have, different features from our neighbors at the same time. So it is really something that enriches you in many ways. But sometimes it's also challenging, because I always thought, like many, young people, that they don't need to care about many things, or politics or wars or anything else, while they're growing up. But if you are a young person growing up in Turkey, you have to be aware of all of these. And besides, we also have a very, very rich background in spiritualism, different kinds of beliefs. And at the same time, we are a democratic country, which we are always looking, to the future with, let's say, good mindsets. And this is also, I would like to thank Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, a founder of Turkish Republic. Really gave us all these opportunities, as a, growing country, to become, one of the very colorful and rich ones. I mean, I don't know if I was good enough to explain my feelings, but I just want to, share one quote from Atatürk, which really describes the way that we have been thinking. I have been thinking. He says, a person who doesn't think differently from his time and environment can't grow beyond his or her time and environment. It's very valuable. I mean, it always motivates you to look beyond and, walk forward, for your achievements. So.
No, it's really amazing. And what you said really comes to my mind in the sense of the challenge and the opportunities and the wealth. But at the same time, like you said, most of the people, especially if you are born in the Western world, first of all, you are a minority because the Western world is probably totally 1 billion people plus, while the rest of the other part of the world is 8 billion people or 7 billion people. So definitely Turkey is the middle of, like you said, Europe, Asia, Middle East, and as well a lot of the relationships with Africa. But like you said, being a young entrepreneur and as well a woman, and so much mosaic of cultures and religion and so forth, is not an easy one. And of course, most of the people might have different visions or kind of visualization about what Turkey means, because you might look at history, you might look at the extremes part or the tourist part, but everyone has somehow an opinion. But actually understand the complexity of Turkey is very complex. But as well, for someone that has to be living in that complex mosaic, is actually quite fascinating. And I know quite well the country, and I want to know more. But let's look at your education and as well, because I know that one of the myths, and probably kill the myths with your education when I start talking, is that people is a highly Muslim country and a lot of things are very kind of conservative. But no, actually Turkey is probably one of the most liberal countries in the world. So I learned that actually the first time I started working with Turkey people. And people actually very innovative and very open. So a bit of how do you look at this? First of all, building your career, your education, and you have an academic background or academic education as well. How do you look at that and then you become an entrepreneur with all this kind of mosaic, like you said?
Well, actually, I decided for my career when I was 12. I know it's really weird though, but I decided to study economics, actually. And I decided to become a businesswoman when I was 12. It's probably my family was maybe motivating me or imposing me, but and it happened. So I really studied economics, and then I really started my company at the age of 26. I always had this entrepreneurship mindset. And because I have been, I have grown up in a family that always, empowers women. And then they were always telling me, as a woman, you have to be strong, you have to be active, you have to be at a point that's making change in the world. So I was always growing up hearing all these nice motivations from my family, from my dad and mom. And so I feel myself quite lucky in this. So they were always supporting me in my career and in my education life and so on. So and actually, while I was studying economics, I decided to specialize on international trades. It has been my passion, along the way, always. And when I was still studying at university, I was already, writing my thesis on international trades and, trying to understand it better. And I started to work when I was actually studying. Because it was my passion and I didn't want to lose any more time. And then I just built up my career on this. When I look, back, I think the main motivation for me to choose international trade was to travel, around the world, to learn more cultures, to get to know more people and understand the world itself, as a whole. It was my, number one motivation, which always, made me, happy while I'm dealing with international trade. And I have dealt with more than 30 countries by now, and I really got to know different cultures, different people, and I really got something from each of them, which is so valuable. It really just opens your mind and expands your vision in various ways. And I always say it expands your definition of right, because everybody has a definition of right and wrong in their lives, but sometimes it's very limited, and sometimes it's very strict. And when you really travel a lot and make business with different cultures, your definition of right expands as well, when you get to know, different ways of, communication and different ways of business. So it was, number one motivation for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead, continue.
I always say that, international trade is not just about exchanging goods or services, actually. It's about building bridges between nations, and it's like fostering, mutual understanding, to make world a more prosperous place. actually in different ways. So that was my main purpose.
So from this experience, and I'm particularly curious. So, like you said, you start working while you were still in the university, and you start immediately going to international relations. And I know that you've been traveling and doing business all over the world, even as a young entrepreneur. So, from this kind of the culture, the Turkish culture, which is quite complex and full of different layers, and as well from doing business in Turkey, which is quite unique as well, and it's all about relationships, but as well very dynamic and very commercial driven. And then doing these trade corridors that you start doing with your experiences. I don't know if you want to talk about the experience that you had or one or two things, but that is particularly important because I would like for people, I know that people listening to us from the US or from Europe will think, okay, Turkey, there'll be a lot of blurred and visualization how it stands to being an entrepreneur and a women entrepreneur in Turkey, and as well someone that's been working in different parts, and as well how do you look at that in the context of the world economy? And for us, Turkey is very technological driven. People are very digital savvy, especially the people like you that are entrepreneurs and very digital and business savvy. So a bit of this mystification coming from you. I would like to see how you see these things and how you can portray Turkey and yourself and some of the things you've been doing for the rest of the world that doesn't know so much about Turkey.
Well, actually, in Turkey, I can say that we really get a very good, education in the schools and at the universities. And when I, travel or like have chance to talk with different, people from different parts of the world, I can see that we really have a visionary look actually to many things, which is really quite, something that you feel quite satisfied and happy about it. And in Turkey, yes, I mean, when you look to the young population that we have a high profile of qualified, employees in Turkey, which is also very valuable. And it also takes, attention to many, international businesses and companies that would like to work in Turkey, or they sometimes really transfer all these, white collar employees from Turkey as well. They would like to work together with those. And I see as a digital, when you look from the digital perspective, technology perspective, yes, I mean, we are quite, advanced in many technologies. I can see that, people are really using technology and digital services a lot in Turkey. For instance, when you look to the, social media channels, Turkey is one of the, highest populations that is using social media channels in the world. So it is really quite, let's say, surprising maybe for some parts of the world, but actually we are very, open for innovations and technology in case of manufacturing it and also in case of using it. It's also very important. We are also manufacturing technology and innovative products in Turkey as well. So in the industrial wise, we are also very advanced. So which is something that I'm also happy to see, for my country.
No, and effectively it is. It's an economy that is quite not easy to put in a box because of the impact that is in Central Asia and as well in a lot of parts of the world. So let's talk right now in terms of your career. So I know that you work in a lot of different parts of the world. So talk us about your journey and I know that, for instance, your experience in Egypt as a young entrepreneur. And I think that this kind of experience is it's one thing that most of these things are hidden from business schools or from even podcasts like this, because we end up actually talking about the trends, we end up actually talking about technology, but we forget that 90% of the success is the relationships we build and this experience, and sometimes it's the most awkward ones. So if you want to share some experience of your career, especially some international experience that you've been having.
Well, actually, while I was traveling all around the world as a young let's say entrepreneur or young person in business life, Well, it was sometimes quite challenging in some areas and in some industries, let's say, because as you know, I have a various experience in many different industries. Because the thing is, I was always saying I'm a foreign trade specialist. So I don't just, focus on one product. I focus on international trade. So any goods or services, I can, export, or I can import, or I can give consultancy to companies who can expand their, markets, or who would like to solve their outsource needs, or if they want to, lower their, cost of production, if they need semi-finished or raw material, materials from other parts of the world. I was able to find out where it is produced in the best quality and the most reasonable prices. And after that, I was able to bring all those goods to their doors for the manufacturers as well. So while doing this, I was dealing in different industries. So I quite had some experience in different sectors, which also, gave me a more idea about not just for different cultures, but also, different industries and the different ways of looking to the business. And actually, as I just, conducted various roles as an employee or employer, manufacturer, distributor, importer, and exporter, consultant, or the company, that really makes me, easily build empathy with anyone that I speak to. So I really would like to thank all of these experiences that, I had through my life, that really brought me today. I can speak to, any company, any size of the company, and I can understand their languages and their needs, which is very, very important and valuable. So that when you build the empathy, it's easy to find a way to create solutions together, which is very important. And I have, yes, just, talked before with you that I had, experiences in different parts of the world. And sometimes, unfortunately, to travel as a lady is not easy. But I was always very brave, because I always thought as this: I'm not afraid of people. I'm free to talk, and I'm free to communicate to any type of person. And I was always sure that they would understand me. So thanks God, I didn't have any bad experiences. But yeah, sometimes I was like trying to convince myself, okay, you are safe, don't worry. I mean, you can travel that part of the world. You can just, visit, let's say, a factory which is like out of the city and then in the middle of nowhere, and then you can go there alone, no problem. And thanks God, I mean, nothing bad happens, but all these really just put on the, experiences that I was like developing in my life. I mean, it was not easy sometimes, yes.
That is a very important and very courageous, and I want to touch that, because I didn't actually. One thing, of course, I'm a man, I have other kind of experiences, but one of the things really is difficult is sometimes dealing in some parts of the world, and as well the sense of security. Especially, it's true, if you go to some factories in the middle of, I don't know, Africa, which I had the case, and even Middle East, sometimes you get, oh my God, what am I? And then, of course, there's all the things that come. So I want to touch that, because I know that, for instance, Turkey is a very beautiful country, and it has a lot of things. And for instance, Istanbul is one of the most beautiful cities in the world where you live. But this kind of understanding, especially, and I think this is actually happened the same in Asia. If you look at even China, for China right now is quite developed, but just 15 years ago, it was actually a very underdeveloped country. So I want to touch that, because this is a kind of a myth that is one of the biggest challenge in terms of doing business, both national and international, because people, oh my God, I don't want to do business with people because I heard this. I don't want to do. So they forgot that in the end of the day, each business is a person that has their family, their loved ones, their passions, their at the end of the day, from one place to the other, everyone will like a sports, football or cricket or tennis. Everyone will actually love probably the same fans of some celebrity of film or music or so forth. So I want to touch that, especially in the context of you as an entrepreneur, as a professional and a business lady from, in this case, Turkey. Let's talk about these details, because it's kind of unique and it's a big demystification.
Yes. Well, actually, you would like to hear, I don't know, some stories about what I have
No,
been.
I leave that for you. For instance, some things that are very unique that you thought, for instance, dealing in, let's say, from you as an entrepreneur in Turkey that you didn't saw in other parts of the world, or other parts of the world, one experience or other that was more radical. It might be a positive one and a negative one. I think this kind of is very important because, for instance, one of the things I learned in my business was the more there was a fantastic study from one of the Rem Koolhaas, one of the biggest architects, that he made in a book that he published, that he made a graphic between the quantity of traveling and the quantity of growth of his business. So the more he traveled, the more his business grew. So I think it's the same here as well. Of course, if you don't travel, if you stay in your neighborhood, you will not find new solutions. But I think it comes with a sense of adventureness and the sense of being courageous as well, because most of people are afraid. They're afraid of all the different things. So I don't know if you want to just share some experience or things that you think more interesting for us.
Yeah. Well, once, I was traveling to Egypt, intensely. Actually, I don't want to, just talk on any country and then say, oh, okay, this country is dangerous or this country is, not easy to travel, because in each country there are regions that you should not be, based, or you should not travel alone. Of course, in each country, I can say this, even in Europe. So if you know at what time where not to be, then you are safe. But there, of course, I mean, you have to travel wisely. So I don't tell this, on blaming, Egypt or so, but it was just a funny experience that I had. For instance, I was traveling frequently to Egypt, and sometimes it's so funny because sometimes even to see someone abroad in some countries, it is really interesting. Sometimes they really treat you like a celebrity or so. They want to take your photos and they want to just come to, just shake your hands. It's sometimes funny. And in one of those travels, I was going to visit a factory in Cairo. And I was like at the age of 25 then. I was quite young actually, and not as experienced as I am now. And then the owner of the factory said, okay, I can just come to pick you up from your hotel and then we can go to the factory. I said, sure, why not? And then he came the other day, and then we just he started driving the car. And then I just noticed that we were like going out of Cairo, after like 20 minutes, we were still driving. And I asked him, I mean, where are we going? I mean, isn't the factory, near somewhere to downtown or, some industrial zone inside Cairo? And he said, no, it's outside Cairo. I mean, we have to drive like half an hour more. I was like, oops, because I was like alone. And then we were like driving, and I was like trying to, communicate with the person in a kind way. And then after 1 hour of drive, we came somewhere like in the middle of nowhere. And he showed me a very, very large area. And then he said, this is the Silicon Valley of Egypt. I said, very well. But there were like fences around the area, and then there was no building inside. So I was like, okay, if I just shout here and shout for help, no one will hear me for sure. I was like, okay, this is getting more and more exciting. Fine. I was like trying to keep calm. And then we arrived to the factory. It was like a big, kind of a big warehouse, I cannot say it was a factory yet. When we entered, it was a kind of a warehouse. There was some goods stuffed over there, but there was no machinery and nothing. And there were like 3 big guys inside. I was like, oops. I was like still trying to act cool and brave and fine. And then he just, we just took a tour inside the warehouse, and then he was like telling me his dreams about the machinery and the factory inside that big building. And I was like, okay, very nice. Yes, a very good, plan for machinery, and equipments and so on. And then after a while, he said, let's just, sit and talk about the opportunities that we can, create and the cooperation that we can establish. I said, okay. And then they were like trying to, of course, try to, host me, trying to, serve some drinks or something. I said, we better just keep it very short because I have another meeting that I have to catch in an hour or so. I was like trying to, rush so that, it just finishes as soon as possible so that I feel safe again. And finally, yes, we had a like half an hour of meeting, and then he was so kind to just take me back to the downtown Cairo, back to my hotel. And then I said, thank you for the nice meeting. And I was like, thanks God I'm alive. I mean, it's not, I don't really want to tell anything bad about any country, because this can be experienced in any country in the world. But the main thing was that, I mean, as a lady, and especially as a younger one, when you're alone in a country, I mean, you really need to sometimes, consider, some kind of risks. But as I said, I was always, inside, I was sure nothing bad will happen. Everything is fine. I'm safe. So I mean, it really also helps your, personal transformation and personal growth as well. It is very important. So, but this was the thing that I asked for from life, so I cannot complain about it. I was always happy to have such experiences.
But that is, it's an interesting one, because it shows, first of all, that the person actually was excited to show you what he was doing, and actually demystifies as well, because he was trying to show his Silicon Valley of the region. And it's interesting because this can happen in any place in the world. But of course, Egypt, I know Egypt a bit. And it's, of course, I imagined a couple of years ago, it's still now is quite an interesting and complex place. So that's and I think for people listening to us, this happens a lot with me. I think, like you said, you go to another country, just the fact they have a different color of skin, you are like a celebrity, or sometimes you might be, okay, who is this person? So, but it's these kind of things that make doing business international a pleasure. And as well, there's a lot of, because I'm sure you did some good friends, or at least you build some relationships with these people. And this is where normally people forget when you do business that is about relationships. So Merve, let's come back to your experience. And that is a great case study. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. And as well, it shows two cultures. Of course, there were two ancient civilizations, of course, Egypt and Turkey, and as well, they still have some challenge. But in the end of the day, with 100 million people each country, and one of the youngest populations in the world. So let's look at, again, coming back to your experience. So you've been doing a lot of different verticals, and you're very curious, like you said. So from your different experiences, what has been that, I think, some of the things that you can share with us in terms of things that have been more rewarding towards these experiences that you've been having with different industries and doing international business?
Actually, I'm really curious about everything in the world. I'm really open for, experimental learning, academic learning. I always, search for, new stuff. And I try to gain new hobbies so that I can learn different things while, experiencing different, let's say, hobbies. And well, when I say that, I mean, when you stop being curious about anything, it means that you really stop really living. Because I think that, I mean, when you read a book and finish it, at that time your curiosity about that book is finished. So if your curiosity, finishes at some point, it means that your book of this life is also finished. So I mean, and you cannot develop yourself further. And then it means that you're just standing somewhere, and just standing means that you're going backward and you're not going, forwards. And it is really very important. So I don't know, I mean, if this was, you know, answering your question, but, you know, yeah, I always think that, I mean, you cannot learn about something just sitting on a chair and just watching, because, okay, you can learn about a country, you can learn about the culture, you can learn about a city or a historical place while watching. But if you don't go and visit there, you will never know how to feel when you know, breathe in that, you know, area. It is very important, and that makes us human. I mean, our feelings and our thoughts and insights about a place, a person, a culture. So it is very, I mean, so learning just, you know, is a combination of all, I mean. So I always wanted to experience all these different cultures and businesses. And also for the industry wise, for instance, when I just start a new project, if I'm working with a company or I'm trying to get to know a company while I'm consulting, I was trying to, you know, understand their, you know, manufacturing processes as well, because I would like to feel the journey of a good, so that while, you know, preparing their roadmaps or preparing their market expansion and so on, I would feel that, you know, which ways are the best, you know, to market these goods, you know. But first of all, I have to understand that good myself. I have to, you know, fully, you know, feel that good. That really makes me, you know, gives me inspiration about everything, because I think intuitive intelligence is very important, and we are in a very digital age. Actually, we are in a new era, and of course, technology is very important. So digital transformation of, you know, people is very important, but at the same time, personal transformation of people is also very important. I mean, you have to you have to invest in yourself first in order to go along, you know, well enough with the technology. So, you know, in the past, we were, of course, using internet. We were using, you know, we were attending, you know, exhibitions. You know, we were trying to, you know, create some digital existence. But now, if you are not digitally present in all channels, then it means that you will disappear soon. So what I'm trying to say is, as we are in a new era, the way of, you know, making business has also changed. So I mean, just to feel the good, or just to visit a country, or just to meet someone, you know, in person is not enough anymore. You still have to do this. You still have to build your personal relationships with people and understand the ways that they communicate and understand their needs deeply. It is very important. But the solutions that we were providing in the past is not enough anymore. We have to provide new solutions to the companies, to the people, you know, to the businesses. And when you sum up all to the countries and to the nations, actually, we are providing new solutions, which is very, very important and valuable. And if we don't catch the new era, then we cannot exist, you know, in a business life anymore. So, I mean, maybe I'm maybe just telling this so complicated, but I'm just trying to say that the journey that we were facing in the past is really different than the journey we are facing in this new era. So, I mean, you have to adapt to the new system. So I still do what I have been doing in the past, but I'm adding more tools and more equipments on the top of it, so that I can still be upfront, you know, in the front of, you know, the business, and then I can still lead and motivate people, you know, for, you know, better solutions and for innovative solutions to success in their, you know, businesses. So
No,
Well,
and it's a very good point you made, especially this bridge between the digital transformation and the change management and the persons and the digital. So you have to make a bridge. And this is actually probably the biggest challenge we're facing right now in our economy, because people get lost between the digital and between the physical. And of course, these two things implies a huge level of complexity, because building relationships physical, it's very difficult, because if you deal with different culture, you need to understand how to respect this culture, how to work with this culture. And of course, digital, even for instance, the way we deal in Zoom or Microsoft Teams or one of these digital tools, the language, the voice, the being in the camera or not being in the camera makes a big difference. For instance, I have a lot of complications in terms of, for instance, creating a business or closing a business. You have to see the body language, look at the eyes, look at different things, and people forget these things, and understand that sometimes you will not do it if you don't respect, and sometimes it's disrespectful, though, the tone of voice and things like that. So very good points. So I want to touch one thing. So you touch very important things, from change management to digital transformation. So can you tell us, from coming back to Turkey, and I know that I will push a bit more on that, because I think a lot of people will want to know about how it is to do a business in Turkey. So you created a couple of business in Turkey, you represent business in Turkey, international people. So tell us a bit how it is to build a business in Turkey. Let's say if it is, there's a lot of startups in Turkey, actually thousands. There's a lot of innovation, actually technology is quite advanced, but what is the uniqueness and some tips about doing a business or doing business in Turkey or creating something in Turkey?
well, I can, firstly say that Turkish people are very brave in the terms of, of entrepreneurship, I can say, because when I look to the European countries, I don't see much, brave people as it is in Turkey. I mean, in the case of, establishing new companies. And so I think we like challenges in a way. And we are very, maybe it's a cultural thing, because I see that Turkish people are very resistant, in terms of, struggles, or in terms of problems or chaos. Somehow I think we are, very capable of, or we just experienced maybe a lot, that somehow we can keep our balance in chaos, which is very important while doing business. And Turkey is a growing country, and there are lots of opportunities actually in Turkey. And as being, I mean, because of the geopolitical, position of Turkey, it's close to Europe, close to Central Asia, close to Africa, and close to Middle East. So it makes Turkey, a manufacturing hub in a way. And European countries, for instance, I mean, if they want to cost their inventory costs or transport costs, it's really a great place to, partnership or cooperate with Turkish companies, because it's easy to trade, it's close, and the quality of the manufactured goods are, very high, which is also good. And there are also lots of qualified people, which is also great. Well, it is also challenging to establish a company in Turkey and trade, because the laws are not so easy to handle. The tax legislations are not so easy to handle. Of course, yeah, there are lots of opportunities and lots of risks as well. So it depends, how you take the risk. If you see the risk as an opportunity, and if you're, let's say, brave enough and aware enough how to handle the risk, that's fine. One of the things actually, while I have been doing my, I have been an entrepreneur, since the age of 26. So it has been a quite long time that I have been an entrepreneur in Turkey. One of the most valuable things is I know how to fail. It is a most expensive, but, most teaching experience. When you know how to fail, then you know, where to look, and with whom to solve, and how to avoid. It's very, very important. And to take precautions and to be aware of the risks is the number one key issue, in making business in Turkey. So if you have failed once, you know, in a business, it makes you really stronger, because you know that, you know what not to do, which is the most valuable knowledge, I guess. And then you know how to really avoid, you know, problems. So it, of course, okay, you can analyze the data, you can analyze the figures, you can, you know, foresee the future and everything, but at the same time you need to have and really insight, you know, and you can just activate it with your intuitive intelligence. That's the way to do it. I mean, because just reading and observing is not enough sometimes, and you have to really see things, what's coming next, you know, and how to avoid that problem. And of course, you can face problems, you can face failures and so on. But of always, it is very important to just stop and find out what you have learned from that experience and what kind of, you know, benefits that experience will give you in your future steps. So it is very important. I mean, I always say that, I mean, there is no hopeless situation, but there are hopeless people. So if you have your hope and if you have your intelligence, you can just solve any problems and then just, you know, move forward. I mean, no question in that.
No, I love it, and I think this is very inspirational. I think it's just, you made a very good point, and actually, I have been, I think failure is probably one of the biggest teachers in life, and if you don't fail, actually, normally a lot of the success comes from failure, because if you never fail, or you never succeed, let's put it that way. You need to test and error. And actually, there was someone was telling me recently about the Museum of Failure that exists in London. And I think really it's an important thing. I think everyone should go. It's very painful. And you have to be very humble, because after the failure, you're normally prepared to be successful, because you actually learn and you can move forward. So coming back to your experience, and I want to shift a bit, and in cautious of time, we'll close in a while, but a couple of more questions. So you have an experience with the horse industry. You work with a big company of horse, and as well you build the infrastructure in Turkey, but as well you are a horse therapist. So can you tell us about that experience, both as working in the equestrian industry, which is something I'm learning, but as well in being a horse therapist, because it's quite interesting, as shifting a bit, but it's about leadership as well and coaching, because horses have been a kind of an animal that comes with the generals, it comes with aristocracy, so it's always I would say a leadership horse, a leadership animal, but as well the fact that you are a therapist it's quite an interesting one. So I would like for you to tell us about that.
Sure. First of all, horses are great teachers. Actually, there are a lot to learn from them, and they're really amazing, you know, creatures that can really help people, you know, recover from different illnesses as well. So horses are also therapists themselves. It's very, you know, valuable information to know. And I was actually always in love with nature and animals, and especially horses and dogs. You know, it's my, you know, one of the biggest passions in life. And while I was working, you know, with EQUUSIR, they produce high technology bioscan devices for horses and dogs. And then I went through a training of bioscan, of horses as well. So became a horse bioscan therapist at the same time, which is a combination of, high technology with, let's say, naturopathic, knowledge. It's the combination of both. So it's like complementary medicine, actually. So as I mentioned before, when I do a business, when I start a business, I should just learn everything about that business. So that's why I just, went through these training sessions, of becoming a bioscan horse therapist. And it was a very valuable experience because I was actually an amateur rider in the past. And then get to know horses even more into details was a great experience. I really learned a lot, and it really taught me a lot as a human, because the anatomy of the horse has so much similarities with the anatomy of people, and also their deep feelings and their deep insights and their deep empathy feature is very, very important to understand. And while looking deep into the horses, I found out that we are really missing lots of things in the world, and then we lose our perspectives to look to the different parts of the life. It's very hard to explain. It's very hard to define my experience in this. But what I can say shortly is that I have learned a lot from horses while helping them. They were also helping me. And then now I'm able to, when I see a horse, I can really analyze, her or his personality. And I can even analyze in how many days or in how long of a period that this horse will recover, or if she's or he is really willing to recover or not, or if she's or he is willing to run that day or race that day. So I can really understand all this, because we were helping horses in different disciplines. I mean, in concours, show jumping, in flat racing, and also in different areas, dressage and so on. So I was also dealing with different, breeds of horses as well. So it was a really very, enriching experience, and which we still, we also have our own horses, and every day we are also dealing with horses still, and it's very valuable. I don't know what else I can tell, but it's really what I say. Every human should really have a relationship with horses and try to understand them, and then you start to look to the world from a different perspective. Really, it changes your point of view. And a horse.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, and one more thing, maybe a horse is a creature that really helped nations to develop, and we should understand it. It's the the most supportive animal in the world for the humanity or nations get developed. So it's very important that we really have a different relationship with horses. So it's very valuable.
Wow, that's a masterclass in equestrian knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing with us. It's really special, and you write about a lot of these things, but of course probably most of people never think about it unless you deal with horses. But effectively they are part of civilization, part of military, part of leadership, and as well they are effectively very special animals that deal with humanity in a lot of ways. So thank you. It's really very special. So I know that you're conscious of finalizing, and we pass 1 hour right now. So I think one or two more questions. The first one is, let's say, for people that have no experience dealing with Turkey and Central Asia, and especially Turkey, if you would think about, let's say, 5 things that you would suggest these people to go through, what would be the 5 tips or 5 advice areas that you would give for people that want to do business with Turkey or deal with Turkish people as well?
Well, very, very good question. Well, I should really think about it, carefully. First of all, they should understand the perspective of the person, or the mindset of the person that they are dealing with, because there are really differences in different regions and in different industries. So first of all, they should do their homework before contacting to a Turkish company, and then understand their point of views in business is very important. And secondly, if they're going to deal with a manufacturer or a service provider, or I don't know, a consultancy company, well, they really need to understand the proficiency of the company that they're going to deal with or create partnership, because even, you know, in the same industry, if they're manufacturing same goods, they can have a quite different ways of doing business. As I talk, okay, every culture has some common features and so on, but Turkey is also a mosaic. So they can really face to very, you know, open-minded people, but at the same time, they can also face to very strict people. So it depends on the region and the industry. So they really need to analyze this. So if they can get some, you know, help or support from a consultant, that will be great. So that they will not lose time, you know, in dealing with, you know, maybe wrong mindsets, let's say. I mean, not easy to define this in words. And well, third thing, actually, of course, I mean, it's a very wide range of things that you have to go through. I mean, before making business in any country, actually, not in just Turkey, but I mean, if you're looking for a manufacturer, or if you're looking for a, I don't know, supplier, if you're looking for a partner, it's really a very wide range of things that you have to, you know, analyze and go through before doing things. So in this case, if you're looking for instance, a company who would like to outsource some products, let's say, from Turkey, there are really different institutions, associations that they can really contact and get information from those, or industrial zone managements and so on. So but first of all, they need to understand, well, in Turkey, there are some, you know, ways of communication. Let's say, let's put it this way. And then if you just, you know, go through the right way of communication with the company, any company, then you will for sure find a way to cooperate, because Turkish people are really very friendly, and they're really open for, you know, communication. They're really open for doing business, but sometimes they're so busy with so many things, and sometimes you can just, you know, lose the track of the business at some point. So it's also very important to be, you know, specific enough and open to understand each other at the same time. So I don't know if it was helpful, but, you know, this is really a very tough question at the same time. I mean, something to think.
No, it's a special one, and you touched it very well. Thank you so much. So I have much more. I think we'll do a take two with more special guests from the region and other people from international trade experiences. Merve, it's been an honor and pleasure. I really love your sharing with us, and there's a lot of pearls of wisdom for people listening to us, both how to deal in Turkey, but learning as well about some of the things, and especially the horse therapy is an interesting one that I'll think about it myself. So thank you so much, and we're looking forward for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure for me too. Thank you for your kindness and time.